Now that we've talked about comparing different types of savings accounts or bank accounts at banks, we're going to move into now how banks actually reward us for saving money with them, or how banks charge us if we're going to borrow money from them. And this is done through two ways. There's simple interest and compound interest. Today we're going to look at how simple interest works. Now, if you borrow money from the bank, they're going to charge you interest. So you're going to borrow a certain amount and you're going to have to pay back a little bit more. They charge you for actually borrowing the money. Likewise, if you're putting money into the bank, they actually give you money to say, hey, thank you for putting money in here because we're using your money to lend it out to other people. So we're going to give you a little bit of interest. So we're going to give you some money just for saving with us. So there's three big terms that we need to know, or parts of vocabulary. There's simple interest. It's calculated as a percentage of the principal, which right now you might be saying, great, what does principal mean? So principal, the next word next to it, this is the amount of money you either put into a bank account to save or that you borrow from the bank for a loan. So this is called the principal amount. So these things here, the amount of interest you pay or are getting paid, depends on how much money you actually borrowed or put in to save. And the term is the length of time that you're actually putting money into the bank to save. So if you're saving for 5 years for something, your term is 5 years. If you're taking a loan out for the bank from the bank for 3 years, your term is 3 years. Now, for our case, we're going to make sure that our term is always talking about years. Now, this big formula here, this is the simple interest formula. I is the interest that you're either going to earn or have to pay the bank. P is the principal, so how much you're putting in the bank to save or how much you're actually borrowing from the bank. We'll jump over here to T. This is the term, so how long you're borrowing it for or trying to save, and we're going to talk about this in years. And then there's R. R is our interest rate, and we always need to put this as a decimal. We can't work with that. It's given to us as a percentage, but we want to work with it in math as a decimal. So interest equals the principal times the rate times the term in years. And we're going to examine this through three little examples here. So we got, you want to invest $5,000 into an account that gives you simple interest. It says calculate how much the investment would be worth at each of the following rates and terms. So we have three different questions. One at 3% for 2 years, one at 3.75% for 4 years, and then one at 1.75% for 15 months. So we're going to go through, we're going to look at how we can do this using the simple interest, because it does say the simple interest formula. So that is I equals the principal times the rate times the time. So the interest would be, now the principal in this case is $5,000. The rate, the R, deals with our 3%. So you either have to know that 3% as a decimal is actually 0.03. How did we get that? We could take 3 and divide it by 100 and we get 0.03. So that number can go in here, 0.03. Or another way to look at it is to say the interest is 5,000 times the 3% but divided by 100. Both of these will get us the same answer. Now we're looking at the term. This is the T part in the end of the formula. The term is for 2 years, so both of these we can multiply by 2. So you only need one or the other when it comes to these two formulas. So now when we plug it in, I'll show you on the calculator, we're going to say 5,000 times 3 divided by 100, which would give me 3% as a decimal, multiplied by 2. And that means at the end of 2 years, this bank account would have earned $300. So again, you can either put in the decimal or you could put it in as a fraction divided by 100. Either one of those is okay. Just to simplify our work, to see what's going on, we're getting $300 at the end of 2 years. And this is saying, how much would this investment be worth? Well, we started with $5,000, and now the bank's going to give us $300 for keeping our money in there. So we're going to end up at the end of 2 years actually with $5,300 in our bank account. Not too bad. The next question, we're earning 3.75% per annum. This per annum just means per year over a 4-year term. So again, we're talking simple interest. The question said that above. Our interest, the principal, we're still investing $5,000. Our interest rate now is 3.75. So we're going to say 3.75 out of 100. That'll convert that to a decimal. And now it's in for 4 years. The term is 4 years. And looking at our work again, showing you how it would look on your calculator, 5,000 times 3.75 divided by 100, which would give us the decimal for that, times 4, which means after 4 years in this account, we'd have $750 interest. So $750. And again, they're saying, okay, how much does that actually turn out to be? Well, we started with $5,000. We're adding the $750. So at the end of 4 years, we'll have $5,750. So the bank pays us $750 to have our money in their bank account for 4 years based on that interest rate. The last question is a little bit trickier because we have this 15-month term. We want to figure out what this is in years. So you need to know that 15 months in years, well, a year has 12 months. So 15 divided by 12 would mean that this is actually in for 1.25 years. So this is going to be our term. So we can't say 15 months, we have to say 1.25 years. Now the rest of the formula just goes the exact same way. I'm going to say our interest is the principal times the rate times the time. The interest we make is the principal, which in this question is still the $5,000, times the interest rate, which is 1.75 out of 100, because we need that as a decimal, multiplied now by 1 1/4 year, or 1.25 years. So if we were to calculate this in our calculator, this is what we're going to see. We're going to see 5,000 multiplied by the 1.75 divided by 100 to get the decimal. Multiply that by 1.25 years. And this is the number we see, 109.37. Now it's important that you know money only has 2 decimal places. So I'm going to write that down here, 109.375. Now if we only have 2 decimal places in money, we have to round this. This 5 bumps that up, so my interest is actually going to be $109.38. So we bump up that last bit to a penny. So that's the interest that we're going to get. The amount in our bank account after all that time is the 5,000 plus the 109.38, which would get us to $5109.38. So if we compare these amounts, each time we're adding that back on, if we had it in for 3% for 2 years, we'd have $5,300 in there. If we had it in 3 3/4% for 4 years, so our interest rate is higher than in A, and the time we have it in is higher than in A, we're going to make more interest. We're going to make $750 worth of interest because it's in for a longer time at a higher interest rate. So we're going to get $5,750 at the end of that will be our bank account total, or our balance. And the last question is just saying, well, we have a really low interest rate at 1 3/4%, and we're only keeping it in for just over a year, 15 months. So that's why our interest was a little lower.